Hello, and welcome to episode 103 of the Carrier's Edge podcast. I'm Mark Morrell, co-founder of Carrier's Edge, and my guest today is...
the other co-founder, Jane Jezraoui.
Well, hello, Jane.
Hello, Mark.
And happy
Monday.
One day
post Mother's Day.
Yes. We're coming into a long weekend here in the Great White North, and we are also...
is it Victoria Day?
It is. We are also coming towards the end of our podcast season. I think we have maybe one episode after this that we will be doing, then wrapping up our season. So it is in the home stretch. We're heading towards summer. And we are just back from what should have been a lovely, relaxing time in Las Vegas for a couple of days, and was neither of those things.
It was neither of those things. It was lovely. It was okay, which is not a word that you want to use when you've gone to a nice resort or,
should be a nice resort.
Yeah. And where you should be able to get some service from all the money that you've forked over.
Yes. So we were learning that there are a whole lot of different ways that a hotel can screw up your experience. They were very creative in finding new ways.
Yes. The best one was the inability to find cream that was not going to, turn your coffee into a whole bunch of, it didn't curdle your coffee.
Yes. First time I've ever been served.
Oh, that's not the first time that I've ever had curdled cream in coffee, because you can't tell.
Yes.
Cream, if you don't have cream in your coffee, if you're not an aficionado of cream, and I am, cream, no sugar. And what happens is if the cream is starting to go off and it doesn't smell bad, it seems fine, but you put it in your coffee and it immediately turns into all of these little bits of...
Lumpy.
Yeah, lumpy bits
Lumpy
of...
coffee is not what anybody's after.
Yeah, especially not when you're paying, I don't know, what we were paying like $30 for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it was an expensive place.
Yeah, it was not a diner.
No.
Let's just say. But
diners have solved that problem.
Pardon?
Diners have solved that problem. They give you cream in the little containers, and it's gross, but it's never bad. It hasn't spoiled.
It's never bad.
Things that you don't think you're going to have request from the hotel. Please don't serve me spoiled food.
Yes. So we sent it back, and apologies, blah blah blah. And when it came again the second time, Mark basically put the cream in my coffee and said he wanted to demonstrate it.
No, I want to do it in front of you. You stay here.
Yeah.
You watch. Wait.
This is to the server. You stay here. You watch while I put this cream in the coffee. And second time.
Yep. Curdled
again. And what I thought was hilarious was the response was, the barista told me it was fine. And I'm thinking that in this level of service you're supposed to get, wouldn't you try putting the cream in the coffee yourself and see for yourself?
Just to make sure.
Did anyone try putting cream in the coffee? I guess no.
No.
That was a bridge too far. You could not actually test the cream.
No.
So, that was what...
That was indicative of our experience.
Yeah,
there.
That wasn't the first thing.
We had lengthy complaints.
That was like number 4
and
on the list.
And it was about 4 or 5 managers that were involved in resolving our issues. And ultimately, you did at least talk to somebody who heard your concerns and was suitably horrified.
Yes, she was horrified. She was horrified when, and I know this was your words, but so this whole coffee experience that we had ended up with me saying, you know what, I just get a lot of bad service, because I do. Mm-hmm. I get bad service all the time. I get more bad service than anyone else that I know. And Mark initially did not believe me, and now he believes me because he's lived with me for 25 years. I get bad service. And not all the time, but enough of the time.
But if somebody is going to get bad service, it will be you.
Yes. Or if there's going to be a problem with somebody's food, it's going to be me.
Yes.
And so I was sort of telling this story kind of as I don't know, not really a joke, but just because.
Trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah, because I was pretty pissed off. And the server was trying to make it so that if I just had a better outlook, things would be better. Mm-hmm. And you said,
I said, well, mine isn't gone bad. Mine's fine.
So later on, Mark called it manifesting better service.
You need to manifest a better outcome.
I just need to manifest it.
That's essentially what she was saying to you.
Yeah. If you just think good thoughts, you'll have better service. And I'm thinking,
that cream
oh my
won't be
God.
Bad. Yes. Your bad attitude made that cream spoil when it got near you.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And not only just for me, but for other people in the hotel, because we heard later that the tank truck had spoiled cream too.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't be anything to do with that hotel.
Yeah. So there was some issues. But we did survive it, and we are back. I have a
standing invitation to go back there, which I don't want to do.
Yes, and get treated like royalty when you get back there.
Yeah, but I have to fly there.
Yeah.
I have to get there, and then I have to pay for a hotel room, and then have to pay the exorbitant amounts of money for everything that they want to serve me. So, and what kills me is the tiny little water bottles. When you go to like an Embassy Suites, a middle of the road hotel, you get a normal size, like what's that?
Yeah, like a
normal bottle of water that's 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so it's not it's a bottle of water. But they have managed to shrink the bottles of water that they give you at hotels so that even though we're in the middle of the desert, they're only giving us basically 3 ounces of water.
Yeah, tiny bits of it.
It's
like they have a custom order that they have of these bottles.
Of tiny water bottles. You can't
get anywhere else because you go across the street to the convenience store and they've got full-size bottles for $1.
Yeah.
But in the resort, you get half of that size for $7.
You go on the property and all of a sudden, just because you are in the presence of greatness, you have to pay ridiculous amounts for less. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be happy. I can understand, charge me more for the same size, but don't charge me double for less.
Yes.
Like, that's ridiculous. And it just makes me not want to go to Vegas anymore because it just is like everybody had their hand out.
Yeah. Or they didn't have their hand out. They just had their hand slipping into your pocket trying to get it without you noticing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't a good experience. And I don't think we'll go back unless we're forced to.
So anybody listening, don't book your conferences in Vegas for a couple of years.
Or what was the hotel? Fountain
Blue. Who really are working on getting their act together. Working on.
Yeah, my eyebrows are raising.
They haven't accomplished getting their act together.
They have not.
The act is not together. It is a work in progress.
The act is in several puzzle pieces.
Yes.
And they also, it's crazy because they had blue fountains everywhere. So the name of the hotel is actually Fontainebleau. I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce it because
it's a made-up word.
Pardon?
It's a made-up word. It's not
Bleau.
Yeah.
Which is not blue. No, but they obviously think it's blue because they have lots of blue. So blue fountain, but it's spelled the French version of fountain and then some weird word that is Bleau, which is not blue.
Maybe it's a short form for like water, which would be Oeau, and blue or bleu, Bleu. They put them two together. It's like blue water. It's just blue. Make it all together.
Maybe. But that was the first thing that that was one of the first things that we were talking about as we were going up to it is, wait, hang on. How do you say this name? Yeah. Is it blue or blau or what is it? But if they can't figure out the name, I'm gonna assume that they haven't figured out anything else. But our last trips to the Wynn were pretty bad too. They were doing the same thing, crappy service and but still charging the same. Yeah.
So traveling for work gets tired after a while. And as we've talked about in the last few episodes, we've been doing a lot of travel. Different events and things, and we are ready to not be staying in hotels for a little while.
Oh, here's another thing that I think is hilarious, is that you can't get tea that doesn't have caffeine in it at a hotel. Unless you get the odd thing of chamomile that they have every once in a while. But if you ask for non-caffeinated tea, which is like herbal tea, every other kind of tea, like black tea has breakfast, orange pekoe, English breakfast, all of those have caffeine in it. So if you're trying to not have caffeine, then you shouldn't have those kinds of tea. So, but if you're at a hotel trying to get just a pack of chamomile, they don't know what to do with you, especially in the States. They did not know what to do.
Wow.
That was a magical creation. That's why I sent you out to the store after.
Oh, when we were in Charlotte.
Yeah, because my voice was gone.
Yeah, looking for some decaf tea.
I'm like, my voice had completely disappeared, and I'm trying to get it to come back because I have to speak the next day. And I'm trying to get the hotel to give me some tea. No.
They had none.
Bridge too far. Yeah. I got handed some English breakfast. Like, thank you.
They gave you a lot of it. They wanted to help. They gave you lots of.
They gave me like
all the different varieties, but just all of it was caffeinated.
English breakfast tea that was in the hotel.
So now we've come to the end of our travel for a little while, and we are back, head down on the regular work, the quote unquote real job type stuff. And I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that I thought were kind of interesting. But then you mentioned this thing that you've just come across that I am very fascinated about. A teaser about an article that you were reading in the eLearning Guild journal that was, or now it's called the eLearning Developers Journal, I think is their formal name. No, it's still
the eLearning Guild.
Oh, is it?
Oh, I think it's just an online article that they have. I don't know if that's... Yeah, it used to be the eLearning Guild Journal.
Yeah.
And now it's just eLearning Guild. But there's been a lot of talk about learning styles. And so we've talked about learning styles on this podcast a bunch of times. And the idea of learning styles is falling out of favor. So
right. I think when we talked about this last time, you were talking about how there isn't a single style, that there's multiple, and everybody has multiple styles, and they sort of squish together to come up with some preferences. Yeah,
and there's some science now behind it, and then there's some theoretical things that I found this in an article, and the article is called Learning Style Alternatives, and it's by a gentleman called... Let me see, I have to go to the end. What's his name? Bill Brandon, who is...
he's their editor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
He's still there. Wow.
Yeah, he's looking pretty old. But anyway, so I don't think that it's wrong to think of people as visual or auditory or kinetic. And he calls that the VAK, V-A-K model. But there's a couple of other models that people can use to design their learning. And one is the dual coding theory.
Ooh.
And yes, which means it's a combination of verbal and visual information to improve learning. And now this is more for classroom. I think that you could do it more easily in a classroom. You can do it in e-learning, but it's more... You have to do a lot more interesting things with interactivity. But basically, it's getting people to process information a couple of different ways. So you use verbal and visual ways of processing. So you can read text, and then you can create visual summaries afterwards, or create a mind map, or use infographics. So, and I think what you could do with e-learning is that you could present, and we do this often, is present the information in multiple ways. Yeah. So you have text, but you also have a graph, or you have like some sort of diagram, or you have an interactive step-by-step thing that takes you through a process. That kind of thing, which is the text by itself gives you, some information, but then using it in a different way really helps you learn it. And that's one of the reasons that we have the put it into practice ideas that are on our system, because those ideas are different ways of using the knowledge that you get from a course. So if you have to actually handle something after you've read about it, after you've answered questions about it, after you've looked at photos of it, and then you have to handle it, then you have, like, there's a whole bunch of different parts of your brain that are firing off.
Right.
And that is going to help you learn, and it's going to help you learn for longer. And the other one is called Universal Design for Learning, which is kind of the same thing. It kind of talks about it in different ways. And when you are talking about theoretical concepts, they often do this. They often have something kind of discussed in one way and then discussed in another, and you can kind of see how they're basically the same thing. So providing this other one, this Universal Design for Learning, uses multiple means of representation. So don't just have a video and don't just have text. Have more than one thing doing, showing the same information. Allow people to interact with content differently. So allow them to, then that's what I mean with the put it into practice. It gives you an opportunity of thinking about things differently. And have multiple means of engagement. Again, put it into practice has a lot of ideas for engagement, for social media ideas, for rewards and recognition ideas. And it gives you a whole bunch of different ways of teaching the same thing. And that's really going to be a really effective way of getting people to learn anything or even practice anything. Having the ability to use a simulator and then practice in real life on something is more engaging than just showing them, an online learning course.
Or one of the things that we've seen working really well is using a simulator, but then everybody goes through the simulation and there's a discussion afterwards. Or you try and match somebody's score and you have a little bit of a competition around it, but there's a discussion around what somebody did in order to get that score.
Yeah.
So it isn't just you go in there and you sit and you go through it and you're done. It's then you got to talk about it and then you got to contribute to the discussion and then go back and try it again.
And that's kind of how anybody learns anything, is that you do a little bit and then you do a little bit of something different that relates to it. And then you do a little bit of something else. And then it all kind of compiles and then you sleep. Yep. And the sleep is really important for learning.
Yeah.
Is not doing it all at once in a big, in a big bunch, and giving people time to sit with different kinds of concepts and different practices and things like that. It takes a while for people. It's not that they don't understand things. It takes a while for people to change habits and get used to ideas. So if you're trying to improve people's performance, you can't expect that one online course is going to do it.
Well, it's a little bit like, I'm thinking about how you've got to let your self-conscious or your subconscious work on it.
Yes.
Right? So you go and do something else. You go and sleep, or you put this away and you go and do something else. You go and walk or do some other activity. But it's a little bit like the old analogy of you put something on the back burner of a stove and let it simmer. And that slow burn changes how things interact. It changes all of the components of the recipe. And then the result is something much better. And so the same thing here, you go and you park it in your subconscious and it gets processed. And then next time you go at it, you can approach it in a much better way. You'll have a different idea about it. You'll think of something that you hadn't considered. You get a much better sense of how the whole thing works.
What I think that the trucking industry often, and nobody, I don't think it applies to everybody, but it could be just society as a whole. But I know that in my interactions with the trucking industry, the industry often wants to have a solution. Here you go. This is what to do. If you do X, Y, and Z, you will, have fewer accidents and your insurance will go down and life will be great. But it's always like there often is the idea that this single recipe is what you're going to, that's
right.
going to work. And what happens in real life when you're dealing with a whole bunch of different people, all on different, skill levels and behavioral types, you can't do that. It's not going to be a single solution for every single person to get to a single behavior that's going to improve your safety record. What you have to do is try and figure out all of these different ways. And that's when we see successful companies in the best fleets, that's what they're doing. They have all of these different ways. And when you have success in learning, that's what you also have to do. When you're just doing regular stand-up teaching, classroom teaching, students, adults, doesn't even matter. If you explain it, you might have an explanation that you like, that your go-to explanation of a particular concept is, this is how, mitosis works, how cells divide. This is how it works. This is my explanation. I'm going to start here. I'm not even going to do it because I can't remember. I can visualize.
You went to that one, but you don't even remember it.
Maybe I should do a trucking one. Like not mitosis. That's biology.
This is how to check your brakes.
This is how to check your brakes. And, some people are just not going to get it. And sometimes you have to think of 3 different explanations or find someone else to explain it before a person gets the concept that you're trying to tell them. And I think here's a really good example. We were talking about, we have this crazy shower that actually has multiple shower heads, and there's different taps, or there are different controllers for the different shower heads. This is a very fancy shower, but very confusing.
There are 6 different knobs in this.
Yes, there's 3 different. It's a weird shower, but there's 6 different knobs. And it was the same thing with our pool, where we had different levers that said, or that controlled which water was going into the pool and then into the filter and all of this stuff. And I cannot keep it in my head. Cannot. I don't know. You have told me a billion times which one controls this, and then you've tried to give me a mnemonic for it, and I still can't remember. Like, I remember for about a day, and then I forget. And it just does not stick with me. I would, the way that it's arranged is just really crazy for me. But if we put labels on it, I'm fine.
So I have to find a way to have labels in the shower that don't come off or don't wash away.
Or a picture or some sort of visual aid. Like, I cannot remember which ones. I know that the groups of 2 control one set.
Yeah,
and
there's some method to them, but the specifics
I know that there's a system.
Yeah.
And I know 2 of them for sure. But sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if I'm using them in the wrong way, I don't understand. And it's kind of a dumb thing.
That's got to be the same thing with people learning how to do an inspection, with all of those different items that need to be inspected and so many different bits on each of those.
Oh, yeah. And it's important. And when you teach it only one way every single time, you're going to lose a certain percentage.
People will only collect a certain portion of that knowledge.
Yes.
They may get bits of it, but they're not going to get all of it.
And what I do know is that the way that people taught, like for example, you're getting your commercial driver's license, your Class A, there's part of the test is doing an inspection. And I know that in some schools, it's like, okay, memorize these words. And that's how they got people to pass it. But that doesn't mean you understand. It just means you know the words.
And point at them. Yeah.
And it's almost like a little stage show, okay, now you point here, now you point there, say this word, say that word. And that'll get you through, but you don't understand it.
Right.
So if you can think of a way to get people to understand it, then that's way better. You as an instructor or you as the company may have to put a little bit more effort into how many different ways you want to present the information. But think of how important it is that everybody do a proper inspection.
Yeah.
And then, think how much effort should you be putting into this? And then how can you kind of make that effort so that you're not doing it with every single new person, that you can have it in a system that's a little bit more streamlined. And online learning absolutely is one of those things, but Doing it as a simulation is another one. Doing it as a rodeo, like,
practical activity.
Practical activity.
Doing
There's
it as a
another
game,
one.
having a coach in there. And then building on other things like rewards and recognition, building it into other activities so that it isn't something that is isolated and separated from the rest of the job.
Or have people do it in groups or pairs. So it's not always driver trainer or safety manager and driver. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's two drivers working together.
Ooh, I like
Maybe
that.
it's, I don't know, or a small group, and they have to get a certain number of things right. There's a lot of focus on individuals in trucking where it's, the driver trainer and the driver. But it can be, and I'm not saying this is good for when you're actually driving, but when you're doing in the yard things, having a small 2 or 3 people and having an activity to do and not just listening to whatever trainer there is or instructor or manager, having a thing to do, that's way more, that's going to help people learn better than just listening. Or you can listen for a while and then try it. Yeah. What I'm saying, I just keep saying the same thing over and over again. There's so many different ways that you can give people information, and the more ways you do it, the better.
Well, somebody described it to me one time using the analogy that it's layers of Swiss cheese, and each layer will have holes in it. So you will get some of it, but there will always be holes. So you have to lay these things on top of each other in different ways to eventually cover all the holes. And if you have the different ways of doing it, that sometimes you're doing it as a group exercise, sometimes you're doing it as self-study online, sometimes you're doing it as instructor-led in a classroom, you put all of those things together, they are all individual layers of the Swiss cheese, and eventually everybody will get all of the pieces. There will be no holes.
I think also that it's really important that you don't eliminate words.
Ah, okay.
Words, text. How awful text is. We're sort of training as a society, we're training ourselves to use less and less text. And I think that
text is important.
I think it is. Text is important. There's a lot, every single regulation is text.
Yes.
And it's not easy text. It's text that you have to understand. So removing text to try and make things more fun, I don't think is the right answer.
Well, it's funny that there's such a contradiction happening, because while people are talking about remove text and get rid of all of this text, more and more, every time I see a video or see anything where there's some motion, there are captions. There's text underneath it. Even when you're going through like social media now, if there isn't captions in the video, they'll automatically generate them. So there's always text. And our younger generation are used to consuming content through multiple channels at the same time. They want audio and text at the same time. I see our kids do that, and I see their peers do the same thing. The Zoomers want to hear it and see the text at the same time. So while on the one hand we're saying, oh, text bad, let's get rid of the text, go to video. Well, all the videos have now got text on them.
Now, and the videos are giving you garbage text too. So
Yeah.
It's not the correct text necessarily. It's kind of
lazy,
a facsimile.
auto-generated captions, and you have to fill in on your own all of the bad grammar and, oh, this word really should have been this other word, and all of that. So if people took the time to do text properly, it would actually be way more effective.
Yes, I think so. And it would also be effective for translation.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's a mistake to think that no text is somehow more engaging.
No, it's not.
Which is kind of where people are going. It's like, oh, well, you just got so much text. It's so dry. And no, there's some text, yes, but the text, everything on the page means something.
Yeah.
And one of the things with our courses is that you don't have an image that doesn't relate to the text.
Mm-hmm. It all fits together.
Yes.
But
and
you
need
make a really
text
good
for
point. And I think it's worth reiterating that regulations are all text.
Yeah.
There is no regulation that is just a bunch of pictures and symbols. There's no regulation infographic. It is all text, and it is dense legalese. we live in a world where that stuff is still the rule that everyone has to follow. And it's the same thing when you are looking at shipping documents. There's words in there. You got to understand it. And sometimes it's even worse than words because it's all short forms. And you have to translate all acronyms and short forms and everything into the proper text to figure out what's going on. Yeah, literacy is ever more important in a world where there's more and more information flying around.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny how there's more and more misinformation, and yet literacy is not prized. It's like, I feel like it's so much 1984, where in that book, if you've ever read it, the level of literacy for people was very low, and the level of misinformation was very high. And I think that's a lot of the reason, and questioning anything was going to get you into trouble. So that is kind of where the world, like there's a lot of parts of society that are heading that way, so that if you don't think critically about words that you see or words that people say to you or things that people are trying to convince you of, if you don't think about it, you can be led in all kinds of different directions. Well,
it's funny that I was just thinking about something that we encounter on a regular basis, cybersecurity and phishing attacks. People attempting to phish us.
I had a bad one today.
But that actually was a pretty well-constructed phishing attempt. But what I note on this, and what made me think of it when you were talking, is every phishing attack, they always have a very clear line to separate and filter out people that are literate and critical and paying attention. Every message that is trying to phish you has got typos in it, has got bad grammar, has got something that's sloppy that looks like it was not written by anybody who knows how to write. And they do that intentionally because they want to filter out the people that are critical thinkers and focus on the people that don't pay attention and aren't thinking about spelling and typos and all that other stuff. Those are the people that are riper targets for them. So they want to get to those people more critically or more quickly so they can have a better chance of success. So the more people are literate and paying attention to the text and critical of what they're reading, the less likely they are to be getting phished.
Yes.
So it is ever more important to be critical of what you're reading, to be thinking about it, and to be paying attention to the text.
Which is really hard because now text is very short and comes at you. There's a lot of inundation of text, like all this email, message, text, instructions and this and that, and you must do this and security. Like there's just a lot coming at you. And in order to have success at anything, or to not necessarily success in life or anything, but to succeed at a task, you almost have to filter everything out and make sure that you are actually focusing on the right bits of information. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I try to do with courses or with educational material is I'm focused on what needs to happen, and can someone understand it, and how many different ways can we get this information. It's because there's a lot of garbage coming in.
Mm-hmm. Well, that brings me around to another subject that I wanted to talk about today, which is something that you were talking about on the radio last week, and that is communication and the importance of it and the removal of people from the communication equation.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
How you think about now when you talk to, say you call and I have called a few, a customer support line, or if you get into a text chat with them from a website, are you talking to a person or not?
Yeah. Or are you talking to just a bot?
Yeah. And now that artificial intelligence is being used with more and more automated help, you don't know if you can't necessarily tell if you're talking to a computer or a person. And what I find interesting is that it used to be very difficult for people to communicate with each other over long distances. There was, you had smoke signals, like talk about a lot of message in a bottle. That's like the worst communication. But then you had the phone. So, you had the first, or actually before the phone, you had the telegraph. That's where you did Morse code, right?
Yeah.
So then you have the phone, and then the phone becomes, where you had do you remember long distance charges?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do, because you use them a lot. But, now it's kind of weird when you can have the same number. Like we have the same phone number in BC that we did in Ontario. That was never happening 30 years ago.
Not possible.
Yeah, it was like you completely had to just give up your phone in your house when you left or cut it off. And that phone number that you had is gone. And so as time has gone on, it's been easier and easier for people to communicate. But there has been a movement towards people communicating with technology rather than person to person. It's person to computer. So if you are not, even when you're texting someone, there is a slight possibility that anytime you think you're texting a human being, you may not be.
Yeah, not when you're texting your friends, but when you're texting a business.
Oh, no, but think about this. If I have do not disturb or I'm driving,
right.
If I have that on my phone and you text me while I'm driving, you're going to get a text.
An auto text.
Yeah. Now, that it's a...
But you make a good point, because there are a lot of times where that communication may have been dictated and then translated or cleaned up or auto-suggested or kind of filled and finished on its own.
Yep.
There's a lot of that. And there is a real risk to removing the personal element in that communication.
Oh, I think in a lot of cases, you remove the personal element. That whole idea of service that like what we started with complaining about, or I was complaining about at the beginning, is people are getting so used to it's like a lower level, or it's a lack of engagement with a person. That lack of engagement I think is starting to come out in society, where people are kind of just not, it's not that they don't care. It's like they don't know how to.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do.
Well, we see that where we've seen stories, and I'm sure everybody listening has seen stories where the real live operators and people on the other end of those text chats get abused because people assume it's a bot. People assume it's a robot answering, so they don't treat it very well. They're really crappy to them. And you don't know who you're engaging with. And then when you ask, is this a real person or is this a bot? All the bots are trained to say, I'm a real person, and have some made up name and some headshot that comes from iStock or something.
Yeah. The headshot library. Yes, there is apparently
I want
a place
to help
you can buy
today.
headshots.
Yeah. So you can't tell, and companies see it as a shortcut to cut costs, a way for them to provide what technically counts as service, but cut all the costs out of it, and they don't really think about the long-term implications. So they're just burning their customer base and not really doing it very effectively. And we're starting to see little bits of that enter trucking, because people are starting to have these bots that are doing a little bit of the communication with drivers as a frontline first response to drivers that have inbound requests. And it's dangerous. Drivers have a tenuous enough connection to the fleet. You don't want to threaten that by cutting a human interaction out of the picture. And I know that some people, their attitude would be, well, yeah, drivers have so many questions. They have so many problems. They always want to gripe about everything. Well, yeah, it's because they're out on the road all the time and they have nobody to talk to. And they're paying your salary, so sit there and listen to it.
And if you think about it, when you're isolated for so many hours a day, you actually want to talk to a person. You don't want to talk to, an automated system.
Yeah, if you wanted to just talk to an automated system, you could just talk to Siri or Alexa and get all of that dealt with.
Yeah. I think that this impersonal, like it's depersonalizing everything. It's, technology is fun to a certain extent, but then it becomes just like replacing everything. And, what are the whole interaction between people is becoming when it's a positive thing, it's really valuable.
Well, it's funny because it can be a really powerful tool to assist in the communication. And a good example, going back to the hotel and our gripes with the hotel, we've noticed that a bunch of hotels are set up now where the day after you check in, you get a text message from some person purportedly at the front desk wanting to check in and see if everything is okay.
Right.
Now, I know that's an automated text.
Absolutely automated.
100% automated. But as soon as I have an issue or I respond, a person jumps in.
Yes.
It goes to a person, and then I have that connection. And I've had cases where it's been perfectly fine. I just say everything's great, thanks. And then I get what might be a personal response, might be canned of, okay, let us know if there's any problems. But if I have issues, I've said, well, actually, we got problems with these things. Then it's clearly a real person who is engaging at that point and getting back to me. That's perfectly fine. We do the same thing. We have some automated reminders and notifications that go out, and they are just prompts mostly so that we remember to do things at certain times. But as soon as somebody responds, there's a person who's involved and somebody who's in the loop. And that I find to be a very good use of technology because it supports building that communication and building that connection. It isn't cutting the humans out of it. It's just enabling a better connection to happen.
Yeah. I mean, people know that those kinds of messages are that they are not coming from a human. But at the same time, people also know that if they respond, just like you said, a human will be in that equation.
Yeah.
If you get that message and then you respond and then you get an automated response, so you know that there's a bot talking to you, and you have a problem, how angry are you going to be?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk to a bot when you have a problem.
Yes.
Sorry, AI is not going to solve problems yet. They are only going to be able to give you whatever kind of information, but they're not doing anything for you. They're not making complicated decisions. They're not giving instructions to different types of people to solve a problem in and make up for it in a number of different ways. That's still a human being. Mm-hmm. And when drivers are talking to dispatchers or fleet managers or safety managers, they often have complex problems.
Yeah.
It's not just how do I correct my pay? Well, it could be a simple problem like that, but it's often there's a shipper who won't let me go to the washroom, or, there's a shipper who won't unload me and it's been 6 hours. Mm-hmm. And, what do I do? Well, an automated response is not going to help.
No, not at all.
Because we are not machines. Mm-hmm. You can't press zeros and ones and make everything okay. If only.
Ah, yes. Okay. Well, we have solved the problem of how to use tools for communication.
Yep.
We've illustrated the importance of literacy and actually reading. We've all learned about learning styles.
Or learning styles are dead. Long live learning styles.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, he didn't call them learning styles. What did he call them?
Oh, I don't even remember. It's I don't know. Hang on, let me see. Universal design for learning and or dual coding theory.
Vectors of education design.
Oh, it's just another way of looking at learning styles. And not so much a learning style, but a learning method. Mm-hmm. So you're really trying to get people to engage in different ways.
Well, speaking of getting people to engage in different ways, thank you for setting me up with that. I have a webinar that I am very excited about. Ooh. I am going to be doing tomorrow. By the time this gets published, it will have happened. A webinar that I've been wanting to do for 2 years now, nearly 2 years.
Is it with Trevor?
This is the webinar with Trevor Bent, CEO of Eason's, the only person I know who has been both the CEO of a trucking company and the safety and HR manager of a trucking company. The only person who has sat in both desks, or sat on both sides of the desk, as it were.
Hey, how about chief carriers?
Andy was in operations.
Oh, okay, not HR.
He might have been involved in some of that, and now he's the GM. Okay, so he might technically be close to that, but I know Trevor better.
But still, it's a really good, it's a really interesting, because when we started working with Eason's, that's what he was.
He was the HR manager in
Yeah.
safety, and then he moved into the C-suite. But why I'm interested is that there's a very different perspective that needs to happen. When you're in safety, you have a very specific mandate. Keep the fleet safe. Get everybody home safely. But when you're the CEO, you've got a different mandate. And safety is part of it, but your job is to grow the business.
Yes.
Grow the value of the business, and safety is part of how you do it, but that's not the whole part. So I have been wanting to have a conversation about this for a while, and I will give full credit to America's Service Line, who gave me the idea when I was at it was the National Private, it was the Private Fleet NPTC Safety Conference. They did a session where they had their president and their safety manager talking about their competing interests and how they work together to solve it. And I thought, that is a fantastic idea for a webinar, and I know just the guy to do it, the one person who's had both jobs. So I think it's very interesting. I think a lot of people in safety don't really understand why they don't get the support that they think they should be getting from the C-suite. They don't understand what the executives are thinking and why they make the decisions that they do. So I think it's going to be very interesting to get some of that perspective. And I think at the same time, there are a lot of people that are executives that don't fully understand the perspective of the safety people. I think there are a lot of executives that tend to come from the sales or operations side, or they come in through the finance side, like different sides of the business. They're not really coming from safety or driver services or HR. So as a result, they have a very different perspective. They're thinking about running the business from the perspective of selling and pricing freight and getting loads delivered. They're not thinking about it in terms of the driver experience or trucks getting home safely and like all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be a fantastic discussion. Rick has got some good questions. I've got some things I want to know.
So if people hear this podcast later and it's already been
they've missed it.
Published,
yes.
Right. But you can get a recording, right?
Yes, all of you hearing this have missed the opportunity, so you should have been paying attention. But no, it's going to be available on our website. We actually have, I think, what did you say, 120 people that are registered for it already?
Okay, so if
you're not one of those
people,
people,
search for Trevor.
It'll be on the website. These will be posted on our website and on our YouTube channel. I think we put them there as well, so it won't be hard to find, and
Cool.
it'll be highlighted on LinkedIn, and Rick will turn it into a story as well. So we'll have a blog story afterwards summarizing it. So yeah, it's going to be out there. But
Excellent.
I'm very, very eager to have this discussion. So I think it should be very interesting. And I think that probably
Wraps
bring us
it up?
around to the end.
All right.
So thanks everybody for listening.
Have a good
Great
day.